Fast, focused, and fearless. Here's everything you need to know as you jumpstart your day. I'm Pauline Verzosa. The Philippine Coast Guard, or PCG, emphasized that the deployment of warships to the West Philippine Sea amid China's harassment is up to President Bongbong Marcos. In a forum over the weekend, PCG spokesperson for the West Philippine Sea, Commodore Tarriela, said sending naval ships to the contested water is a policy option. He said this after the recent harassment incident on December 4, in which China's People Liberation Army Navy tailed BRP Teresa Magbanwa. The Chinese Coast Guard, or CCG, also harassed BRP Melchora Aquino, BRP Cape Engaño, and the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources vessels in Escoda Shoal. A geopolitical analyst, Richard Heydarian, believes that there is a need for the Philippines to revise its approach in issues concerning the West Philippine Sea. Now, this comes amid the increasing pressure from Beijing's strategic maneuvers. Here's an excerpt from his interview on The Big Story.
Do you see this as an escalation from China?
Yeah, I mean, we see now when it comes to China, the so-called gray zone strategy, which is imposing their will short of firing shots at us. Wide spectrum yan eh. So it looks like China is keep on stretching it and squeezing out whatever it can squeeze out of that gray zone strategy. And it's really reminding us of its preponderance of force. So I think this is where things are really challenging for the Philippines, because we have been exercising tremendous amount of moderation and self-restraint, and at the same time primarily relying on public diplomacy and transparency initiative. But it looks like we're meeting the limit of that strategy. And I think this is where we have to move to the next level. As I said, we're still in the early rounds of boxing, if this were a 12-round boxing. But I think there's also indication that some of the strategies and tactics we're using are hitting a ceiling. Now, actually, currently I'm in India for a major event. And earlier this morning, there were conversations by the Indian counterparts here about their own experience with China. As you know, the other year, actually, Indian and Chinese troops engaged in hand-to-hand combat in the Himalayas. And eventually, when the Indians stood their ground, China backed off. And more recently, China and India actually negotiated a new interim agreement to de-escalate situation on terms that are more favorable to India. So what is the relevance of that? I think recently we heard from the Philippine Navy top officials that maybe the Philippines is also looking at employing its own gray zone strategies.
Okay, let me just interrupt,
countering China's
Richard.
gray zone strategies.
Right, let me just interrupt because that's exactly what I wanted to ask you since you already started it, right? So the National Task Force for the West Philippine Sea kind of favors that idea to send Philippine Navy warships to escort these missions or just to send them out into the area to do patrols. On the other hand, the National Maritime Council says they want to avoid a potential Navy-to-Navy confrontation. What's your take on this?
So a couple of things, no. On one hand, I think we have to be honest and recognize sometimes kung nakikita natin umaabot na tayo dun sa ceiling ng effectiveness of a certain strategy, right? So I think first we have to settle the debate. The second thing we have to keep in mind also here is our risk appetite. How much risk appetite do we have, in a sense that what are we willing, what level of escalation are we willing to tolerate if ever China responds by something even more aggressive? Let's say we deploy naval vessels, they deploy a bigger one. Let's say we engage in hand-to-hand combat, they send 10 more guys to engage in hand-to-hand combat.
Meanwhile, the House Quad Committee will release a progress report before the Congress break on December 18. Committee Chair Representative Ace Barber said the report will contain the main points discussed in their previous 12 hearings. It will also indicate over 15 proposed bills rooted from the discussions. The last Quadcom hearing is set on December 12. Let's now take a quick look at today's other headlines. In the Philippine Star, Vice President Sara Duterte's kill threat against President Bongbong Marcos will be handled by the Justice Department. House lawmakers said they will instead oversee impeachment complaints filed by progressive groups against Duterte. And in Business World, the Philippines' gross international reserves dipped at the end of November. Preliminary data showed dollar reserves slipped by 2.4% to $108.5 billion from $111.1 billion at the end of October. The UP Fighting Maroons drew first blood against the De La Salle Green Archers in the best-of-3 final, 73-65. The UP initially trailed behind La Salle at the first half of the game, but they successfully outscored their opponents in the third quarter thanks to Quentin Milora Brown. The Green Archers tried to salvage the game, but Harold Alarcon and JD Cagulangan's free throws sealed the first win for the Fighting Maroons. Milora Brown led UP with a career-high 17 points with 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, and a block. Meanwhile, in the PBL, the Galeries Tower high-risers swept the Capital One Solar Spikers in the All-Filipino Conference. This is Galeries Tower's first win in the conference held at the Ming La Nina Sports Complex in Cebu on Sunday. Galeries Tower will look to end the year on a solid note as the team will face the Cherry Tigo Crossovers on December 14. On the other hand, Capital One will be facing the Creamline Pool Smashers on January 21 next year. President Bongbong Marcos gave gifts and even drove a train with children in Malacañang yesterday. He also directed all government agencies to ensure that the spirit of Christmas is felt by Filipinos despite various challenges. Mobile journalist Julie Baiza has that report.
As the holiday season approaches, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. led a nationwide gift-giving program in Malacañang yesterday. The Balik Sigla Bigay Saya Nationwide Gift-Giving Day brought joy to more than 30,000 children nationwide. It was done in collaboration with the Department of Social Welfare and Development and some shelters and orphanages.
Welcome back sa Malacañang. At alam niyo naman, basta pag Pasko, ito ay open house namin dahil ganyan talaga ang naging tradisyon sa pamilya namin, pamilya Marcos. Nung bata pa ako, at dito pa kami nakatira, basta't Pasko, meron kaming handa para sa ating mga maliliit na naalagaan. Kaya nandito po tayo ulit.
PBBM, along with First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos and presidential sons Simon and Vincent, personally handed out the gift bags to them. The gift set includes trolley bag, pillow, socks, raincoat, tumbler, watch, and towel. The President also directed government agencies to ensure the spirit of Christmas reaches Filipino communities despite the challenges.
Nahirapan tayo itong nakaraang taon at tinamaan tayo ng nagumpisa sa La Nina na nagtagtuyot ang ating agrikultura. Tapos sinundan naman ng una yung El Nino, sinundan naman ng La Nina na puro bagyo naman.
He also urged the Filipinos to continue embracing the Christmas traditions.
Kaya sana naman, mag-Merry Christmas lang tayo kasi tayo ay nabigyan ng kaunting oras, kaunting pagkakataon na makasama ang ating mga mahal sa buhay, nakapag-celebrate ng konti, magsaya ng konti, at kumain ng masyadong maraming lechon at saka mga hamon. Yan ang Pasko para sa Pilipino.
Before the program, the President personally drove a trackless train with the first family and some children around the venue. Mobile journalist Julie Baiza, We Are One News.
And those are the top stories of the hour. Join us later at 9 a.m. as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. I'm Pauline Verzosa. We are One News.